Now, the debate on altering old stories to make them more modern has raged over the last few years, and now it's Snow White that's under fire.
Yeah, actress Rachel Zegler has caused outrage amongst Disney fans after she criticised the original Snow White, despite signing up to play the part in next year's remake of the classic. Let's take a listen.
So it's all changed, but do you think the actress's interpretation of the prince as a weird stalker is accurate? Is it the right thing to do to make fairy tales modern, or should we be leaving the classics alone?
Joining us is Martha Gill, who says it's right that the classics are brought into modern day, and Laura Dodson, who says it's completely sanitising it of all the fun and magic. Martha, let's come to you first. I mean, these are just stories, they're tales, you know, we've all been brought up with them. We shouldn't take them too seriously. Aren't they just fun?
No, they are. Of course, they're just fun. And I don't agree that all parts of literature should be updated to fit the morals of 2023. But fairy tales and folk tales are a particular genre which has always been updated. The 1930s version isn't the original, of course, that was Brothers Grimm. And so the 1930s is itself a sanitised, cleaned-up version of the original story, which had Snow White's mother, not her stepmother, trying to kill her, and ended with the evil queen dancing to her death in hot iron shoes. Fairy tales are basically already kind of pious moral stories which reflect whatever morals parents want to tell their children. In the 1930s, that was marry the richest guy that you can and don't go into the woods alone, perhaps. And now it's, you know, we should treat everyone with a bit more respect, no matter, you know, what minority they belong to. That, you know, that's the new diversity element. And I think that's perfectly fine. In fact, it's quite traditional.
OK, Laura, let's come to you then. You know, fairy tales, folk tales have always been updated and it reflects what's going on at the time. I mean, that's fair enough, isn't it?
I think there's absolutely some truth to that. I wouldn't disagree with anything Martha just said. I think this is actually quite a nuanced conversation. And, you know, she's right. If you remade the original story now, it'd be a horror film and not a children's film. So there's some truth in that. But I do think we're tinkering too much with the classics. And I think there's three really big problems with this particular refresh. First of all, as you just saw in that clip, I think the reason we're having this debate is that Rachel Zegler came off as a little bit less than humble. You know, she's stepping into the princess slippers of a heroine who was in the world's first full-length feature animation, one of the best-selling books of all time, and a centuries-old story. She basically trashed one of Disney's biggest brands and talked about axing the prince from the film. So that came across as a little bit arrogant, and I think that's probably rankled with people. The second thing is it's becoming very predictable to cancel Prince Charming in lots of different films. And I don't think that girl power needs to mean that we pretend we don't need or like men. And the third problem is that it's gone too far. People don't need the classics rewritten to this degree. You know, this is in the same kind of keeping as sensitivity readers rewriting Roald Dahl. Disney puts almost like trigger warnings at the beginning of Dumbo and Peter Pan.
But how would you feel, Laura, though? You know, Rachel Zegler talked about the stalker element, but also there's a moment, isn't there, in the Snow White version that we all know, is where Prince Charming finds Snow White, she's asleep, and he kisses her. I mean, if they reenacted that in a live version now in 2023 or 24, how would you feel watching that? Do you think that would be OK?
I think it would be fine, but, you know, I grew up with the original and I thought it was one of the most magical, incredible films. Look, you have to remember, fairy tales contain magic. You could call this new film, in a sense, Snow White and the Seven Diversity Hires, because they've even got rid of the dwarves.
Oh, come on.
You know, people are used to dwarves, ogres, trolls, warty witches and magical kisses in fairy tales. But I don't think the modern viewer can't handle a little bit of magic.
OK.
It's all part of the fun.
I suppose,
Martha?
Yeah.
What do you make of this? You know, Laura's saying tread with caution when you make these remakes.
I mean, there's no reason you have to cut out all the magic. I think you've got to look at what I think the reason they're updating this is because the underlying moral of the story, which is that it's perfectly fine to kiss sleeping women non-consensually, which is the theme of lots of different fairy tales, is no longer like a modern idea, and they're updating it in that way. And I think that as I was saying before, that is perfectly traditional. And also we have to remember that we're not wiping the old stories from the internet, burning the books, getting rid of the old films. This is just a kind of an addition in the rich tapestry of the way that fairy tales have changed throughout the centuries, from the 1500s to today.
I tell you what, though, I think Disney execs are going to be in crisis talks ever since Rachel Zegler's video resurfaced on TikTok.
Although
they will be dishing out poison apples.
What happened is everyone will want to watch it, won't they? They'll want to watch it.
I'd rather eat a
PR machine
poisoned
has
apple than
started.
watch the film.
We'll have to leave it there.